My dad used to always be like, your changeup was one of the best in the world, Jamie, because I was tired of catching everything else and we just worked on it so much. But I will tell you that it made me very successful because I could put my changeup on a dime any spot that I wanted to. Low and in the middle, high over here. It deceived the batter so well, and I knew how to use it. My name is Jamie and welcome to the Weekly Dose. We are officially in May, and I don't know about you, but the spring season just seems to fly by when we are in softball season. We are going to be talking about spins and grips this month, and I figure it's probably best to start off with the changeup. Remember, this is not me teaching you how to throw this pitch or the pitches this month. This is about taking what you already know, maybe supplementing some things that you hear to think about it differently or to try it a different way if your pitches aren't really working. We think about if we are with one pitching coach our entire career, or the main foundation, right, before you get to college, and you only are hearing it that one way. There is a lot of information out there. There is a lot of different ways to do things, different way to spin the ball, like thinking about fingers differently or body position. And sometimes it's not saying that you're going against your pitching instructor. Remember, I was a pitching instructor for 18 years. I loved when my pitchers went to a clinic or camp to see if something helps them, that maybe the pitching instructor at the camp said it in a different way than I do, and it really clicked with the pitcher. I don't have an ego like that. I want what's best for the pitcher. And so I think it's for parents and pitchers, it's awesome to have this open mind to try new things, because that's being coachable. And if you came to a pitching camp of mine and I said, I just want you to try it today, you may love it, you may like it, you may be like, you know what, this didn't work for me. That's great. At least now you know, like, okay, this is a better way to do it for myself. So always remember that for this month, we're taking in the information and we're just thinking about it differently or trying new things for maybe a week or two and saying, oh, because I have pitchers all the time that come and I say, hey, move your finger over here and let's just see if your spin's tighter. And so when they do that, it'll be like, wow, like your spin was so much tighter that way. And so the pitchers have to buy in. I'm not going to be a dictator to say, this is how you do it. They have to understand what is benefiting them, so then they want to make changes and try new things. So that's what all this is for, okay? So this is just my way of maybe how I threw or how I teach now from learning after all those years. And so we are going to talk about changeups. And the changeup obviously is one of the most important pitches to have. You will find college pitchers still do not have great changeups, and that is sad. That is sad. That is something that should be addressed from the get-go. Rather than moving on and continuing to move on to new pitches without establishing a good to great changeup. And it is a completely different pitch than the other pitches. We kind of sometimes have to get on top of the ball, and so sometimes it's harder to do. And I feel like if you or your daughters have a changeup that's just not consistent, you have to stick with it and you have to maybe try new things. I would go to the pitching coach to say, is there any other pitch ways to do this? Or should we be thinking about it somewhere with a different mindset, with a different mechanical posture or something? There are so many ways to throw a changeup, and if your pitching coach is only teaching you one way and you're struggling with it, the good part is there's other ways to try. So you need to start asking those questions, or go to somebody else that can say, listen, we've tried this isn't working. Do you have a way that you teach that might be helpful to me? Okay. So the good part, if you don't have one, there's hope. The second part is you got to really develop it and throw it. My dad used to always be like, your changeup was one of the best in the world, Jamie, because I was tired of catching everything else and we just worked on it so much. But I will tell you that it made me very successful because I could put my changeup on a dime any spot that I wanted to. Low and in the middle, high over here. It deceived the batter so well, and I knew how to use it. Remember, that's the part. That's the art of pitching, is knowing how to use it. So I will tell you how I throw it. I will tell you how I would teach my younger daughters to throw it right now. The good part is it continually can evolve. And I have college pitchers that she threw a changeup and we're like, hey, your curveball's so good, let's do an off-speed curveball. So you eventually just can kind of like keep like evolving and molding your changeup into something that's really special. But you have to have a great foundation, and it has to be consistent. When you are 10, 11 years old, you should have, by 12, you should have a really good changeup because you've spent 2, 3, 4 years on developing this pitch. But do not give up on it, because those are the pitchers that do not make it late in a game because they only have hard pitches, okay? I threw a horseshoe. That's how I was taught. So with the horseshoe, we see our little 2 lines here. I just kind of put my hand right on the horseshoe. And the key for me is I wanted to really create this kind of palm ball, right? Like I wanted to, like in baseball, it's like a palm ball where you take away the spin and the momentum off of your fingers. And so you try to cup it as much as you can. Now, your hands are probably a lot smaller than mine. I have big hands. And so you might have to play with where your thumb goes to be able to feel like, A, you can hold onto the ball and it's not going to slip out, but also that it's not fast. Because remember, if I were to throw like a fastball or a drop ball, I have this space in here because I want the ball to get that momentum and roll off my fingers. But we don't want our changeups to go fast. And so we have to make sure that we try to cup it as hard as we can to take away the speed. So that is one way. That's the way I threw it. A very common changeup is the flip change. And when you do the flip change, you would hold it like on a 4 seam. So just like how we have the 4 seam rotation, you are going to just hold it like you probably do if you do a 4 seam fastball. And this, there's goods and bads of this pitch. The good thing is it's very easy. I feel like, not for all pitchers, but I think for most pitchers, it's pretty easy concept to learn. Is like, the back of your hand's going and you're going to spin the ball and kind of flick it backwards, right? But where we get a problem, and I used to have a teammate that had a really spinny flip change, and this is rise ball rotation. It's going up. And so she would spin it so much that it would almost rise into the batter's box, which is not a great thing to do, right? They're going to hit that ball over the fence. So good part is it's a quicker changeup to learn. Bad part is there's room for error. Because our fingers can point up to the sky, that the ball can continue to go high when we want to make sure it stays low. So the good part is that my daughter is 6, JC, and she throws a flip change just because I just taught her one day and we were just kind of goofing off, and it was really easy for her. So as she throws her flip change and when she actually plays, it'll be good for her, right? And then there's ways to kind of fine tune it. So like for a flip change, if girls come to me and they're like, this is how I throw my changeup, I'm like, great. Does it have a tendency to stay high? And they'll say yes or no. And if they say yes, then what we do on the flip changes is instead of being like here and just finishing, we try to teach them to still flip it, but to finish with their pinky up and their thumb down. And that'll kind of prevent them. You'll still see, you'll have decent, perfect backspin, but it won't just let you continue to go, or to break your elbow where your hand goes up, right? It kind of gets you to the side of it so that you can keep it on the lower end of the batter's box. And so where you're trying to throw it, if that makes sense. So I will kind of show you later how I would teach that or throw that, okay? Another common change up is like the circle change, right? And that's just kind of taking away your power finger and placing it on there so that you don't have, it really can't roll off of your fingers. And you're gonna, some people say to point your circle at the batter so you're completely on top of your pitch. Some people just take it off and they still just throw their pitch, right? There's different ways to take off speed. When I think of a great changeup, I think of it is you sell it well, it's slower, it's low, and it's straight, right? Like we can get it to the plate, to the river, and it's something that we can sell it. It's slow, it's low, and it's straight. So those are kind of what we focus on, is making sure that really we can sell it and we can get it slow, a good speed that it can deceive the batter and engage them in that pitch, right? And that it's a bonus really if we can start spotting it a little bit better and putting it where we want it to. That's kind of next steps, but we need to make sure we can sell it and it's slow and it's somewhere in the hitting zone. So the key for me, different ways to teach it, okay, is we want to make sure that we are on top of the ball as we're letting it go. So what that means is if I'm throwing like a fastball, right, I'm usually behind the ball and I'm pushing and I'm spinning that ball off my fingertips. But on a changeup, I want to make sure that I'm coming through on top. If I'm a horseshoe, if I'm a flip change, because then that's going to take off the speed. So I'm going to show you how I teach my pitchers and how I was taught with my arm circle in a way that I can be successful to be on top. And I will tell you that a lot of pitchers don't do this early enough. And I feel like that's why their changeup is inconsistent. So let me get situated and we will start with the mechanical part that I teach for change. I'm going to show you with a horseshoe that the mechanical part, and remember, it doesn't matter if I'm throwing a flip or a horseshoe or a circle or whatever pitch. For me, it's a matter of getting on top of that ball early enough so then I can direct the pitch to where I want to go. A lot of the times, pitchers are taught to be able to come down here on the bottom of their whip and then start to turn and get on top, down here. But what happens is your arm circle goes really fast, so sometimes we forget to get on top. We forget to turn that quickly. But even if we turn that quickly, we still can't place the ball where we want it to go. We're just hoping we get the right spin, right? We're just hoping it's slow, but it doesn't let me place it to that dime, to hit that dime, right? So what I teach is when we're here in our Superman and we're coming up above, we're gonna continue to just twist and turn our arm back so that when we get here parallel to the ground, you can see my horseshoe is already facing the ground. So as I come through, let me stand up. As I come through, I'm already on top of the ball. And now I'm going to be able to spin the ball backwards and stay on top of the ball to keep it low. So I'll do the flip again. So here I am with my flip, and I'm going to continue to rotate, and like how I have like a little soda can, and I have a soda here, and I'm going to dump it out. And then I'm going to be able to come back, and now I can throw it outside or inside. Let me show that to you here. So as I'm here, I'm dumping out the soda can. Here I am back here, and I'm going to dump it out. And then I can start bending through and come inside or come outside because I've done all my movement, if that makes sense. So I do a lot of the preparation above my head before I get to this position where I'm parallel to the ground. Then this whole part, this whole part down here is me directing and guiding to hit my spot. So that's the keys for me. And I will add that when I throw my horseshoe, there's not a lot for it to break up, right? Because I don't have my fingers continually pointing to the catcher. So it really can't continue to spin high. And so for the horseshoe, I feel like it's great because we can keep it a little bit on the lower side versus the flip change that you come up here and it can continue to roll off my fingers if I'm not disciplined and keeping a good finish below my shoulder and things like that. So remember, my little daughter is learning a flip because it was easy for her to do. And as we come through, we're going to, instead of just finish here and spin that ball, she's gonna start spinning it and focus on getting her hand here and coming down like a V. And that keeps her from continually raising her arm because our arm has a lot of speed and it wants to go somewhere, right? Another key point that I do for my change-up is that, remember, our arm circle has all this momentum and it's going so fast, and we have got to make sure that at the very end of our pitch, we take all of our energy from our arm speed and stretch it to the catcher. It's gonna keep me from just wanting to bend my elbow or continuing my arm so high, that we wanna make sure that as we're coming here and we release that ball, we stretch and we take it and we tell that ball where to go, right? Give it 2-3 more inches that you guide it to where you want it to go versus letting your arm just continue up at the release point. So that's really helpful to me. It doesn't mean we bend. It doesn't mean we like long and like look funny. We still are gonna stay nice and tall, but I can stretch my arm out. Do you see that? I'm not even moving and I can stretch it. And that's what we're gonna do as we come through. We're just gonna continue to kind of guide it and stretch. So keys for change up. We gotta sell it well. So we've gotta practice our fastballs, our changeups. Like, can you pick up anything different? I will tell you at the college level, a lot of coaches pick up and tell the batters changeups are coming because the changeups are being tipped off. There's something that looks different. And so from an early foundation, you've got to try to match that with your other pitches so that you can't be picked. And a lot of it, I will tell you, is on your arm swing, right? On your arm swing. So when you're starting your pitch and you come back, something right here looks different. You might be here on your rise ball, but here on your changeup, or your hands are different, or some people pitch with a knuckle up, and it all shows. So you've got to make sure to have a great changeup is you've got to be able to hide it. So I encourage you to film your fastball, film your changeup, and from the front and from the side, and see if you see anything different. And I'll add that to the workout of the week because I think it will be very, very eye-opening to see some things. As you want to be great, you've got to get that to be great. You've got to match them, okay? So remember, try new things. Talk to your pitching coach. Figure out a way that you can get a great changeup, not just a good one, a great changeup, and you will be successful if you learn how to use it. Thanks, guys.